Okay, hey everybody, I'm back. We just started over because we're hoping that we don't have a weird technology problem where Lindsay can't see me and make her feel super awkward. So bear with us for 1 minute. Hopefully it works better this time. Okay, I see Lindsay joined. Let's let her in. Okay. Let's see, that's not working. I'm gonna try adding her a different way. Lindsay, where are you? I'm trying to invite you from my end. Uh-oh, maybe we shouldn't have started over because now it's working even less well than before. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here and just watching me talk to myself. Okay, it says Lindsay's unable to join. Let's try again. Invite.
All right, now I got to flip the thing.
Woo!
Today
That was
is the
nerve-wracking.
All right, oh, come on here. Okay, flip. There we go.
Yay, can you
I
see
can
me?
see you. You can see me. The fun of technology, right?
That was stressful.
I know, and I was asking to join, and it kept saying request denied.
I know, and I wasn't denying it, and then it was saying like Lindsay can't join. I was like, no, we shouldn't have even started over. Okay, we're
All
here,
right.
and there's 7 patient people here with us, so
Thank you.
we will forge ahead. Well, welcome everybody and happy March. I'm really happy to be back with Lindsay. I missed you for Sexy Friday. And I guess we'll do our normal brief introduction of ourselves if you're new here. And then we'll tell you what we're talking about today. So I'm Sam E. Greenberg. I'm a sexuality researcher primarily, and I'm also an Enneagram expert and a sexuality and the Enneagram coach, sexuality, relationships, and the Enneagram coach. And I'm here with Lindsay. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, as well as a certified sex therapist, and an IA accredited professional out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I have a practice where I specialize in relationships and sexuality. And welcome back, Sam. I am so excited for you to be back. I missed you. We did have wonderful guests, though. It was a lot of fun to have Rachel and Leslie come in and kind of share their area of expertise. But I was like, gosh, I really miss Sam. I can't wait for her to be back and for us to be back at our Sexy First Fridays. And interestingly enough, I think, so we actually chose our topic today because we are guest speakers in Tyler Zach's relationship summit. It's the Ania Summit on Relationships and Love. You maybe have seen that both Sam and I are advertising that. And it's like, what a better topic than to talk about the Enneagram types in love. And I will let Sam talk a little bit more about this topic and why we picked it.
Right. And also the NES Summit is free, so sign up. There's a link in my bio, or you can go to nessummit.com. But I think Lindsay and I are the only people speaking on sex, the only speakers on sex. So
we are.
Tune in for that. So,
and I think, I was gonna say, interestingly enough too, is like people, I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like people often want more of than what we can give here. That is gonna be 90 minutes of us talking about sex in the Enneagram, so, and instincts. So you're gonna get a lot more time with us too if you join that and wanna know more about all things you've probably heard from us before, but gonna be much more concise.
Okay, so today, inspired by the summit and by Valentine's Day, we are talking about the Enneagram in love. So, obviously, you know us as, your Enneagram sexperts, but we are both also relationship experts. So, we're talking a little more about love and relationships today, more than sex, although we'll sneak some sexy stuff in there for some of the types. So, we're just going to be focusing on what are Enneagram types like when they're in love. What is each type like in an intimate relationship? Um, and I'm going to just give you the spoiler alert ahead, which is um, basically every type is doing what they want done for them. So you're going to hear about each of the 9 types. For all of them, everything they're doing in love is what they wish a partner was doing for them. So that's the headline, that's the thesis. If you don't take anything else away from this, it should be that. So let's dive in, and we're going to go in a little bit of a fun, different order this time because we want to start with our own types this time. So, Lindsay, take it away with type 9.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about type 9, but one of the things that I think was really interesting that when Sam and I were doing this too, that we kind of discovered is that it's oftentimes kind of the core wounding as well that we're trying to give the other. And it actually came out of, like, it was kind of like my aha moment when I actually started thinking about like what I personally do when I'm in love, which is like, I really want the other person to be seen. And so I'm asking all, and this is probably coming from also being a social dominant, right? When we've talked about the social component, which is all about bonding and connection. So when you take that together with the 9, a lot of what I do is I want to know everything about you. And I'm asking you intimate questions about you. I'm fully present. I'm paying attention to you. I might be making eye contact with you. Interestingly enough, I'm very subtle with my physical cues. And so I will, which I think some people haven't picked up on before, but like I might touch your arm or touch your back or slightly touch your hand. These like really little subtle affectionate type touches that I also am kind of indicating to the person. So like I'm going to be touching you affectionately, probably rubbing your arm or touching your hand, and I'm going to want to know everything about you. And I'm asking you all kinds of questions about you because I want you to have the thing that I oftentimes don't feel that I have, which is being fully seen. And so I'm really focusing on, and I see this with 9s in my practice too, focusing on really seeing the person, especially in those early parts of kind of falling in love. What would you add, Sam?
You pretty much covered it. The thing that I find interesting about 9s as a 5, and I'll talk about 5s next, is that 9s tend to be the only other type than 5s that will pick up if someone was speaking and they were interrupted and don't finish. 9s will say, if they're interested in that person, even as a friend, they'll say, oh, what were you saying about XYZ? And 5s do that as well. And as far as I know, those are the only 2 types that do that. And both 9s and 5s feel that they are spoken over a lot, that they are ignored, and, in the 9s case, unseen, in the 5s case, unheard a lot. So you find these beautiful relationships between 9s and 5s because both are doing a version of what the other needs, which is really, really tuning in. So I wanted to bring that up for 9s as well.
I think what's interesting because we've talked about sort of like the significant relationships in my life, and both of them were 5s. One was when I was much younger, but just kind of, and I wasn't really using the Enneagram, but like on reflection back to it, I was like, oh my gosh, this person was a 5 as well. So there is something I think really unique between that 9 and 5 pairing because we go at it for different reasons, but we sort of are fulfilling that need that the other person has to feel seen and to feel heard.
Let's just change the topic to 9 and 5 love fest. Just kidding. We're going to talk about all of them. So for 5s, it is quite similar, but like I said, for 5s, it's a little bit more about being listened to rather than seen. For 9s, they're really desired to be seen as a whole person, whole being, rather than, a merged person who's just going along with the flow or becoming part of you. For 5s, we have a separate self, quite separate, but we do feel like because we have a slower pace, we're more deliberate, we're usually more quiet, we feel that people talk over us, that they're not really listening or they're not listening deeply. So what you see 5s do when they're in love is this we're great listeners anyway, but incredibly deep listening to the other person, wherein we essentially memorize everything they say, everything they share. And you'll see that five sort of love language is that the next time they see the person, they'll bring back up all of these little details that were shared, like, oh, well, you said this about this, your cat's name is this, you love this. And the person's usually really surprised, if they're not a five, that the five remembers those things, because that's not how, typical conversationally, people don't memorize everything about you. So that's because the fives are deeply craving that this is how we are treated. We really want someone listening to everything and not pretending to listen, and remembering is a way of showing that you weren't just pretending to listen. So I'll sneak in a little sexy thing here. So fives will also be memorizing your sexual preferences, whatever is coming up in your sexual interactions. They're going to remember that you liked XYZ, didn't like XYZ, and they'll bring that back. So they're quite good, fast learners in terms of like your sexual preferences. And in both love and sex, it can be quite frustrating for fives when they're with a more mercurial person who changes those things a lot. So that's going to be mostly our sevens, that are changing from one day to the next. We also see sometimes with ones. Ones aren't necessarily aware of this, but they're very black and white thinkers, but they can change their black and white position from one day to the next. And for fives, it's really frustrating because we're like, I'm trying to memorize everything about you. Wait, you said yesterday this, and now it's this. So that can be like a little bit of the Achilles heel for us. What would you add, Lindsay? Because we know your partner's a five.
Yeah, my partner is a five, and I think one of the interesting things that I learned is that fives ask a lot of questions. So when you share something, one of the things that they do when they're interested or in love with you is they start asking more of these inquisitive questions. And I think, I initially didn't really recognize that this was love, because it felt like I'm sharing something I find interesting and then you're asking me 20 questions about it. Do you believe what I'm saying, or are you trying to have conflict with me? And the reality is it's actually their way to like memorize, like kind of like what you said, like memorize these details and get to know you better and kind of like collect their information and kind of like just hear you and understand you. So I think that's a really interesting aspect as well. I was thinking, like, with my partner who's a self-preservation five, it's really a lot of like really simple small gestures sometimes too, which might be actually a little bit more some of the self-preservation stuff than it is the five stuff, because he does all that questioning stuff. But it's like, I bring you the cup of coffee in the morning. If I'm at the grocery store and I know that this is your favorite dessert, like I'm going to buy that favorite dessert. Like he makes sure that like he's the grocery shopper at our house, and like he's going to make sure that everybody has their favorite dessert or like ice cream treat. I don't even think he gets himself anything. I think he just gets the rest of us. He like knows what my favorite is. He knows what the kids' favorite is, and he makes sure that whenever he goes to the grocery store, he gets all three of those things. And I think it's a really kind of, and it's kind of both, right? Self-preservation, but like also I'm collecting information about you, and I know this thing about you, and I'm going to get this thing for you because I know that you like it and you want it. But it's a little bit different than maybe I think other types might.
I literally feel so warm and fuzzy in my heart hearing that he gets like your favorite ice cream. But for a lot of other types, the common complaint of fives is that they're not very romantic. Oh, we have a comment. Spot on with fives and questions. It's our love language. That's the exact thing I said to Lindsay when we were talking about this episode. I said, it's for fives love language, is asking questions. And this person said, I've had others interpret it as judgment, which is the exact opposite. I actually just learned today from Lindsay that it could be interpreted as anything other than like genuine love and interest. So I guess that's good for us to keep in mind. So yeah, for fives, you become the object of study in a way, which sounds, like objectification, but it's not. We really just want to know everything about you. Thanks for that comment. So I'm gonna move on. I think we could do one episode for each type, just a whole half hour, but we have, this is an overview. So we'll talk about eights next because my partner is an eight. So for eights, what they do is a couple different things when they're in love, and even when they just like you as a person, they do this tough love thing. This like tell it like it is. Here, here's the truth. And I'm gonna like tough love you. that's what they're doing because that's how they prefer to be spoken to. That's how they prefer to be communicated with. So if they're doing that for you, it's because they're giving you the time of day. They care about you. A lot of people find eights to be, harsh, abrasive, tactless, etc. But this is actually their love language. They want you to know the truth and face the truth, whether that's about yourself or someone else, because that's what they would want you to do. If you love them, is to come and tell them about whatever, tell them about themselves, tell them about what they're doing, truthfully, not with no sugarcoating. The other thing that eights do is, protect and defend. So they're certainly going to protect and defend their loved ones. And even if that's not wanted, that's what they were missing. That's their core wounding. They have this early loss of innocence. No one ever stepped in to protect and defend them. So they're going to be doing that for their partner when they're in love. What would you add, Lindsay?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking of the protect and defend kind of piece that they do, because I think like even in friendships, I have a lot of friends that are women that are eights in my life. And if they feel like some sort of injustice has happened to anybody they care about, sometimes they'll start like, I'm like, I don't want that. Like, you don't need to cause conflict with this person. Yes, I don't like what they did. Cause I'm like, my heart's beating really fast. But there is sort of this like stepping in and like, I'm going to defend you and I'm going to protect you and I'm going to make sure the people that I love are not going to suffer injustice. And I see that a lot with my clients as well. It's really interesting. I have an 8-9 dynamic, and she can get really protective even of her family sometimes, like not even her husband. And like, I can't believe, like she will get argumentative and like her husband's like, oh, please don't do that. Even though part of him likes it. But it's just is interesting that, and just the dynamic between types, right? Like that's really their way of like showing love. Like I am going to protect it. I am going to stand up and I'm going to say something if somebody is mistreating someone in what I view to be that, which I think is really a quite lovely quality and something I wish I could do sometimes, but also like, please don't do that. From the 9 perspective.
I can probably tell a bunch of stories about this, but we should probably move to 7 if we're gonna hit all of them. So we'll talk more about this like on another episode. Okay, Lindsay, what do you think for 7s?
One of the really interesting things for 7s, which is that freedom and adventure and like, having the autonomy. I have had many 7s in my office, and probably more of these people were sexual 7s, but not all of them, where it's like they fall in love with someone, they pick up everything they're doing, and they travel the world with their partner, like quit their jobs, quit where they're living. And like, I've had people like literally travel the world. And it was interesting because it's like, it's not just one 7 in my office. I mean, there's more that I can count on my hands, 7s that have done this. And I've been in practice for 12 years, so I've seen lots and lots of 7s and lots of different other clients, but it's just a really interesting sort of pattern that I've seen. So to me, it feels like when they're in love, this desire to have freedom and take their partner along for those adventures and excitement. And I think with sex, like they want to have a lot of fun, a lot of play, so like the ability to like want to try different things and do different things and maybe have more adventurous sex in different places, which to them is like, I'm taking you into this place of freedom and excitement with me. I think where I see a lot of 7s and 1s paired together, and sometimes that can kind of overwhelm 1s, though when 1s can kind of go to that place with them. So it's really interesting dynamic with the sexuality too, because it's like, I want to show you a good time and I want to show you some freedom, even in the sexual realm is sort of what I see our 7s do. What would you add, Sam?
Yes, 7's fear is that if they stay still too long, they'll be hit with an avalanche of grief and, sadness and these repressed emotions. So they don't want that. And they don't want you to have that. So when 7s are doing this, like pulling partners who are maybe less afraid of those type of emotions, 7s are pulling those partners into constantly moving and having adventures and keeping things lighthearted. They're doing that out of love. They want to save you from the thing that they are afraid of themselves. And same with sexuality. The complaint we hear from partners of 7 sometimes is like, oh, it's too lighthearted, it's too playful, where's the depth? we'll talk about fours next. That's where the depth is. And the sevens, again, like if they get too emotionally deep and intimate in sex, they can be like weeping, all this stuff comes up. So their way of showing love is like to keep you in this bright, sunshiny place that they want to be in themselves. And that's their way of showing love. Okay, well, let's talk about fours. Speaking of depth. So when fours are in love, and again, this also applies to friendship, essentially anyone that they find valuable, fours will entertain and respect their partner's every emotion. That is what, fours are great at doing. And that means, if you are so sad that you like broke the heel of your favorite shoe and you think that's ridiculous, the four is like, no, like feel that's okay to be sad. Like that is so sad, that's a petty example, but it goes to every emotion that the partner has. The four really and truly, it's not a put on. The four really and truly values your emotions. And this is because, our young fours, lots of emotions, we're often told you're too sensitive. I don't care about your emotions. Your emotions don't matter. They're not important. Stuff them down. So because that's fours core wounding, when they're in love, they're especially, likely to be showering the partner with this emotional empathy. It's interesting that fours are sometimes seen as being kind of self-involved because they're actually one of the most empathetic types on the Enneagram. Yes, they can also be self-involved, but when they're in love, extremely beautiful empathy comes out from them. Of course, we see this also in bed. Fours are going to be wanting to go to this really deep, connected place, even with a casual sexual partner. And they are confused if, let's say, they were partnered with a seven who is like going to be dragged kicking and screaming. Actually, will never be dragged kicking and screaming to a deep emotional place of like our inner everything in sex, because fours are like, no, this is what I want. What I want is, for my partner to want to go there with me. So I want to go there with them. I hope that makes sense. What would you add, Lindsay?
I think of like they are true romantics. Like they are going to tell you in words too what you mean to them and how they see you, and it's poetic.
Oh
And
my
it's
God, the
they,
poetry they
they
write.
and they like see your. I mean, they just really see the depth of your soul, and they want to see the depth of your soul. So even how they look at you, which sometimes for me is a 9 and sexually repressed 9 is like, oh, that's a little intimidating because there is sort of that. But like, it's interesting. Like, it's not just the sexual fours that do this, though, that want this deeper soul connection. With they're going to look at you and they're going to want to kind of get to know all parts of you. So like, they are authentic romantics in what they say, and and the things that they believe about you when they're in love with you.
And they're some of the most expressive of those feelings. We're going to run out of time. So let's do twos next.
Uh, So one of the fascinating things about twos, which I think we've alluded to around sexuality, is they're going to know everything you like sexually and want to meet those sexual needs. They enjoy sort of, I mean, and then there's that fine line between seduction, but like I would say they're going to use seduction as the way to sort of get into that connection with the person that they are in love with, and very giving of all the sexual acts and the things that they think you will like. They are initially in the beginning really oftentimes great lovers because they're very good at reading partners and knowing what partners need and want from them in the sexual realm. They're also going to oftentimes give you the things that they themselves want. So really paying attention, like if they're giving you words of affirmation and love, they also probably are wanting to receive that back. And so there's this giving of things that I want, hoping that the partner will kind of see it and give it back. It's kind of the, like I said, the key into the two. You notice your two doing something, like if they're asking you, like, would you like a blanket? Are you cold? They're probably cold too, and they'd like a blanket offered to them as well. And so there is this like giving for what they'd like, and that ability to kind of have all of that as well. But I think just like that ability to be so giving sexually is great.
And we find that frustrates the types that are more direct. So that would be your eights, your fives. They're like, if you haven't asked me, like I can't be responsible for you, which is a reasonable position to hold. But we're saying for every type they're giving what they want to receive, but for twos, it's like every little thing they're doing is some evidence of the type of care that they're probably wanting. Okay, I guess we'll move quickly here because we still have three more types. So let's talk about threes. What I found with threes is that threes are gonna be great leadership developers and mentors to everyone that they care about. So yes, mentees, yes, friends, but also to their romantic partner. There is this desire, the ability, true ability to see the best and the potential in people, and then to bring that out to being success in whatever way that person wants to be successful. And threes are excellent at this. They're really, really good leadership developers. What can happen though is that the partner feels like a project, like, an improvement project. And can you just love me for who I am? In fact, the three usually does love you for who you are, but they also just want you to be your best, essentially. I wanted to say one note about threes and when relationships end, when love ends for threes, these tend to be the people that paint this perfect picture of themselves in the breakup. Like, oh, it was all them. Like, I'm living my best life. I'm thriving. If you hear this kind of narrative after a split, it's usually a three telling it. That's just something that popped up to add. What else about threes, Lindsay?
I think that, so I have been in relationship with a three as well as one of my serious partners that I had. And one of the things that I think that he was often trying to do was, like you said, that real push to be like, can you be successful? And like in all the ways, like how you look, what you're doing for work, are you pushing yourself? How can you be impressive? And sometimes that can be pressure for the partner, because it can come off like you're not good enough. And I think in reality, that's not the intention of the three. The intention of the three is like, let me help you be even a little bit better. Let me help you even be a little bit more impressive. Let me help you know like the right clothes to wear and how to cut with knives correctly and like how to, push yourself in your career so that you can be this really impressive partner. And sometimes I wonder if that's a little bit like ego focused for them too, because like you on their arm, they want you to be impressive so that they are impressive as well. Yeah, so I think that's a really interesting thing. And I think it was interesting for me to learn, like, even like look back in the sense of like, I think I took that as like I wasn't good enough, but it was more like you can be even better. And here's how you can do that. I think was actually the intention. And so just kind of remembering that with your threes, like when they're giving that encouragement or that push, like they're really trying to help you shine as best as you can in your own life.
Okay, we started a couple minutes late, so we might go to 35 after, but let's quickly do sixes. You go ahead, Lindsay. You're a little better with sixes than me.
I know. I think sixes are a little bit harder to kind of notice the things that they're doing when they're in love, because they're all about safety and security and reassurance. And so they want to create sort of that little bubble of that around you in their relationship. So what can I do to be trustworthy? How can I like kind of be available and present and, be that for you? And so I think it becomes one of these things that's a little bit more like we don't think of as things that people are doing when they're in love, but it's like they want to create that environment for you that you will feel secure and safe and trusting with them. And that ability to be like, when you're with me, it's like a little safe haven. And I'm going to make sure that you feel safe and secure and warm and fuzzy. It's especially like I think of like, our colleague Frederick says the golden cage. The self-preservation is like, I want to create the golden cage that you feel really comfortable in, right? In that, like, in the home space, and everything that you need is met, and all of those types of things, so that you have reassurance that you're safe and secure. So I think it's a really interesting way to think of it, because I think that you may miss, especially if you have self-preservation or a social six, like when they really love you. I think sexual sixes might be a little bit more, they're going to tell you a little bit more because the sexual instinct energy is there.
Yes, exactly. We also see with sixes, like they're working the overtime, they're working all these extra hours, and the partner's like, why are you neglecting me? The six is like, this is my way of showing love. Like, I'm taking care of you. We also get a little bit of the sixes, kind of devil's advocate way of thinking, they also are like questioning your ideas to try to make them better, not because they're trying to tear you down. So some types, especially fives, guilty, can be triggered by that of like, you don't think I'm smart, or why are you, disagreeing with me? But sixes do a lot of like, play this position, because they're trying to like poke holes in your thinking to make it better. So that's another way that they show love. Okay.
I
Oh,
was
go ahead.
gonna say, you're so right with like, I was just like, I think it's like thing to point out. They want to make you safe and secure for the six, so they may overwork to make the money, to make sure you have the home, and that can actually feel dismissive and unloving to the partner. I actually have that exact scenario happening right now with a person who owns their own business who's married to a one. And he's like, but I'm giving you everything you need. I'm giving you the nice house. And I think it's really interesting because it's like their way of showing love, but it feels like neglect to their partners.
Right. And that can come up with everything we've talked about. There's certain types and certain instincts that, are more triggered by each type's way of showing love, and sees it as neglect or sees it as, not love. So it's really helpful to understand these things. So last but not least, we'll talk about ones. So with ones, there is, similar to what we were talking about with the three, but threes want to make you successful and take your potential and actualize it. Ones want to make you perfect, and not because like you have to be perfect for them to love you, but because they want to be perfect. So they want you to be perfect. So they'd be like, showing you the right way of doing the right way, according to themselves, of doing everything. But on a grander scale, essentially they're trying to like massage the relationship into the ideal that they have in their head. And that ideal varies between different people, whether that ideal is like, a certain type of relationship structure or a certain type of way of interacting. They're going to try to like bring the partner into that ideal because they want to be ideal, they want to be perfect, so they want you to be perfect too, and that's their way of showing love. Lindsay, can you explain that better? I feel like I did not explain that well.
I mean, I think you did a pretty good job of explaining that. I think I also like how you're reflecting on that it's like what they view the ideal relationship to be. So this could be, I'm polyamory and everybody should want to be in a polyamorous relationship, and let me show you how this is the right relationship dynamic to be in. And or it could be a monogamous relationship, or it could be a relationship with both, where both people are overworkers, or whatever mentality that they have around what the ideal relationship should be. I think it's so essential for us to kind of focus on, with ones in particular, it's whatever morality they believe in, and that can be many, many, many different things. I think sometimes people think that ones have what the societal morality is, but that's not necessarily true. It's whatever they believe. And so it can feel like hyper criticism, like I can't do anything right because this is how I'm supposed to be, and that's not who I am. And really, in the one's mind, I'm just trying to make you the best. Like, why wouldn't you want to do these things that I am suggesting? I'm even thinking of like a 1-9 dynamic I have in my office, where it's like, she just suggests things because she's like, if you would just do it this way, it would make your life easier. And yet he doesn't agree with that as being the right way to do things in life. And so they're doing it from a genuine place of like, I want you to be the best. I want the best for you, but it can be interpreted as criticism or judgment, or like, I can't do it right. Very similar to threes, but for a very different reason, just like you said, Sam.
And of course, they want to be the best, and they would like their partner to help them be better. So that's, it's what they want done for them, what they're doing. So I guess we have to wrap up. This went very fast as usual. I think the takeaway message, a sort of hint, if you're a partner, the partner of any of these types, is notice what your partner is giving to you and try to give that to them. Try to give that back to them. So for nines, try to really see them. For fives, try to really, really listen to them. For eights, communicate directly, tell it like it is, and protect and defend them, etc. Down through all the types, because your partner is sending you a message with their behavior of what they believe love is. So I think that's the takeaway message.
I completely agree. And just like looking at the core wounding of the person is also going to give you an indication. of like what they're really needing and wanting when someone's in love with them. And so that can kind of be like your cheat sheet if you want, per se. Look at the primary wounding. That's what they need and want when they're in love with someone or someone that they love. And yes, today went very quickly.
So we will see you all hopefully at the Ennea Summit on Love and Relationships from March 5th to 7th. You can find the link to sign up in my Instagram bio or enneasummit.com. That's free, and we're speaking on the 7th, I think, or the third day. So you can get a whole 90 minutes of Lindsay and Sam talking about sex. And then we'll see you in April for the next Sexy First Friday.
Yep, we're on Thursday, and then I'm also, if you do attend that summit, I don't know if you need to have the all access pass or not, but I am going to be speaking, or you can ask me questions on Thursday night from 8 to 9. So that's also an opportunity for you to come and show up if you want to be able to ask me any of your burning sexuality questions.
Bye, everybody. Bye,
Bye.
Lindsay. Thanks
Bye.
for
Great to see you, Sam.
being here.